What's going on?
Hey, what's happening, man?
Not too much. What's going on with you?
Oh, another day, another podcast. Just did one an hour or two ago. So thanks for coming on, talking to me. This is Ryan Charterina. Did I say that right?
You did. A lot of people get that wrong, so I all credit to you.
Try not to mess up the names too much, but we got the EOS implementer today, and I just wanted to get your story, get some of your feedback, and see how you're doing. Share your story and get your name out there some more. So, this is a EricSwahnRacing.com podcast. Should be 123. So I'm getting in the triple digits and just trying to do at least one a week for the last 2.5 years.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm first of all, thanks for having me on here. Definitely curious on did you see one of the podcasts that I did with one of my buddies, Jack, that like what how I guess how did you find me?
I think it was just Instagram, just scrolling through, and I think we follow each other. And I was just like, I saw you posted that wedding picture not long ago, so I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. It sounds like he's, establishing a life for himself.
Yeah, just got married. It's been a big year. So yeah, just got married in June, bought a house in August, and then started this new EOS journey here in the past 2 months. So, been a big year.
So no, I haven't seen the podcast that you did. Tell me a little bit about that one.
Yeah, so my buddy Jack, he works for a company called First Equity Funding. They do like hard money loans here in New Jersey. Um, so yeah, we were on there kind of. I've known him for 10 plus years, so kind of just introducing because I also do real estate as well on the side. Um, so yeah, kind of just talking about real estate and then EOS and kind of what that could do for your business and all that. So yeah, it was a lot, but yeah, definitely. I also want to I want to learn more about you as well. So I guess how long have you been at Eric Swan Racing ESR?
So I started it probably 11 years ago when I first went to track days and started racing. And I found out that companies, I originally started it for sponsorship alone. That was the whole idea, was that businesses want to pay a company sponsorship money rather than a person. It looks a lot better on their taxes and on their balance sheet at the end of the year. So I was like, well, okay, I need a LLC. Let's go down that road. And I have always been a salesman of sorts. I had a lemonade stand as a kid. I used to mow lawns and pick weeds for money as a child. And then I was so hungry, like to get work. I had a job at 14 years old at McDonald's, and at the time, you could be 14 legally and work there. And then a couple of months after I got hired in, they changed the law. You had to be 16. So I was grandfathered in. They couldn't fire me because of that. And then I did the whole Craigslist thing for years. Facebook Marketplace is a more of a recent thing, but I used to sell on my parents' eBay account, like CDs and stuff like that, as a child before I was 18, and with their permission, of course. And there's some supervision, but not a whole lot. It was just pretty much me trying to do it and see what I could sell on there. So I've always been a minimalist. Anything that I had laying around, I didn't need anymore. I was like, well, why don't I just try to sell it? And
Yep.
so since I had the business and I was sponsored or am sponsored by 20 companies, I was like, well, maybe I could branch this into not only being sponsored by the company and like taking from them, but also providing them marketing value. But let's see if I could sell the products that they sell as well. So now I'm an authorized dealer of 35 motorsport brands, from motorcycle road racing to cars, mountain bikes, and motocross. So trying to stay in the motorsports field as much as possible. But I'm doing so many different things right now. I think I have 8 or 9 legitimate jobs on my resume currently right now, but they're all like part-time, scattered. So the business is not selling enough really for me to do it full time, unfortunately. I wish it was, but it's a tough road. So sometimes it's like, 5-figure months, sometimes it's 4-figure months. It's like, oh no. So I'm sure you experience, the ups and downs of that as well.
So what do you want like out of your business that you're not getting right now?
So the hard part is, selling on eBay and Amazon are the two biggest players in my sphere for the online sales. I don't have a storefront. I don't ever plan on having a storefront because the overhead just doesn't make sense. And I want to be able to be nimble and be at the racetrack most of the time and not have to be home physically shipping products. So I want to be selling just higher volume, but being on those two platforms takes such a huge percentage of the sale from each sale that you do. So for a long time, I was doing free shipping on everything. And at a certain point, it just doesn't make sense anymore because I'm making cents on orders instead of dollars and, a lot of money. So I have my own website too, shopesr.com through Shopify. But the problem is there's hundreds of millions of customers on eBay and Amazon. There might be 10 people at a time on my website. So it's just so you have to build a massive brand and following, which is why I started kind of doing the podcast. I found it was very cheap advertising. You just have to talk for an hour or two and do a quick little splicing and editing of bathroom breaks, and you got some free content. So
Oh yeah.
free as far as like after you buy the equipment and the lighting and the cameras and the microphone, then it's free, right?
Yeah. I have a laptop here that could go on the fritz at any moment. Who knows how the audio comes out? So
Sounds all right to
yeah,
me, but I get it. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I guess what would you want to get out of your business that you're not getting today? You know what I mean? Like, what is that number one goal that you have for where EricSwahnRacing goes?
So it's there's a problem with this model. It's like I have access to 35 brands and over 10,000 unique SKUs or products. But the problem is like I might only have 3,000 of those listed online for sale today because it takes so long to go through inventory Excel spreadsheets and take it from vendor XYZ over here and then put it into a working mode or working a way that it can be uploaded to the marketplace, because there might be 50 columns that you have to fill out, whether it's, is it taxable, what's the sale price, what's the origin of manufacturer, all these different things. And then what category is it in? You have to, pick and choose each specific category for each marketplace. So it's an incredibly time consuming thing. It's not just a get rich quick scheme. It's so it takes a lot of time and I guess labor. It's a labor intensive thing, whereas some businesses are, financially intensive where you need a lot of capital. This is a low capital, but you just need a lot of human resources to be able to do it. So I guess, I have over $1 million listed on eBay right now, but it doesn't feel like that. It's like only a couple $1,000s a month. It's not really enough. So if I were to have more workers, I would be able to put all these things online, or a higher percentage of them online. And you'd think that you could extrapolate that out, that should be more sales based on all that. So I'm kind of in transition right now because the inventory management software I was using for the last half a decade or so is just way too much money for the sales that I'm doing in the off season. So I just cut ties with them. So it's more manual now than completely automated, which is okay for now, but saving me 10 grand a year or something like that is a good savings. So I guess, yeah, my biggest problem with the business is just uploading all the products I have access to and keeping them accurate. So for a little while, I was doing virtual assistant, having a virtual assistant. So I had one guy from India, and it's like $5 an hour for Excel proficient, English speaking, smart people, and comes out to be like $800 a month. Don't have to pay taxes on it. And it's a beautiful system that way. It's 40-hour weeks, the full month for $800 a month. You can't do that anywhere in America today. It's like everybody wants $15 an hour or more. Then you got to pay taxes on top of that. Then he's got to pay taxes on that on his end. I'm getting 3 times the amount of work for a third of the price,
And what's crazy about like outsourcing overseas is that, a lot of people, what they say is oh well, the quality's not as good. And like, no, these people are legit. Like I've used them myself, and we've used them in our past business, and they're legit, and they may even be better than we are here. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy because we were looking for like in our last company, we were looking for like drafters, like engineering drafters, and so we tried to hire someone in New Jersey, and you know, first of all, the price to pay is like astronomical. There's nobody that even wants to do it. And then so we were like, all right, well, let's go see, other options. And we went up, I mean, it was like $15 an hour for like a certified engineer who knows like, and we used them for like a year, like plus.
Yeah.
They were awesome and like very motivated, grateful, like I'm all aboard that train. It's a shame that like obviously we live in the United States and we want to give back to our own country, but it's impossible to survive when like you can't compete. Especially at the lower revenues. So
Yeah, I
I'm
would.
all with you there.
Yeah, the choice would be either hire someone for 10 hours a week at American rate or get a full-time worker for the same price. It's like it's a no-brainer. I mean, my dad got laid off years ago in the auto industry because he trained his replacement in India. And
Yeah,
I asked him, like, do you feel bad about me doing this? He's like, no, it just makes financial sense. I mean, he's like, I wish I wasn't on the other side of that coin, but it's a global marketplace now. It's like use the resources that are available to you. That's what all the big players are doing. Just copy what they're doing. It's not unethical. It's not like our currencies are different. It's not like
yeah,
he's living in a shack. He has a house and a family, and that's a decent wage for them. And I don't know if that's his only job, but I mean, like I have, like I said, multiple jobs, so it's not unlikely that it's his only thing either.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like, when you're starting out, especially, you have to use what you have to use to get to the next step. And, I actually want to make a point too. Like so when I asked you before about like, what do you want? What's like the next step for your business? A lot of what you told me was more or less like what struggles you have, but like what do you see like 5 years from now? Where do you see your business then? Like think like in the clouds. Where do you see it? Do you want it to be like, doing 5 million a year? I mean, how much do you want to set? Like different brands that you want to bring on? Like where do you see that 5 year target, I guess?
Yeah, it's always been kind of like a hobby project on the side. I've always had to work other full-time jobs to make this happen, but ideally, I would love to be doing like $100,000 a month would be beautiful. I mean, in the short term, in the long term, 1 million a month would be fantastic. I've worked for other businesses in the same kind of field, sport bike parts, selling online, and I was an order processor for them. And just seeing the flood of orders come through is like wild. I'm like, man, if I
Yeah,
could only have a small percentage of this, I'd be set. So, yeah, the end goal is to do this full time, and the whole idea of me running EricSwahnRacing.com is now to be able to fund my professional motorsports career. So I'm a professional level motorcycle racer, and it's just so damn expensive just to compete and show up at these events. You're talking to be truly competitive, $100 to $150,000 a year just to participate. So um, I would love to even live on $50,000 and then be able to race full time however I want it. And so that's 200 grand a year is what I need. So um, that's basically the goal, is to make $200,000 a year so I can race full time and hire people to do the jobs in the company that I don't love to do, that are just part of the, wearing all these different hats. So at the moment, it's just me. I've had, like I said, different employees, whether they're physical employees. I did that for a little while, then found out it just didn't make sense. Made a switch to virtual. I've had family members work for me, and my mom, my dad, and my aunt have worked for me virtually as well since I went to that model. So yeah, the goal is to sell way more. But right now I'm just working different jobs to help fund the business. So, and I'm just trying to keep it going because you only fail when you run out of money. So I'm just trying not to run out of money. And so, you know, having to work different jobs has forced me to learn different skills. And I've become a coach, a motorsports coach for, in a couple of months, it'll be 5 organizations in a short period of time. So getting people up to speed on how to go fast at the racetrack and even street riding safely. It's rewarding, man. It's like watching these little birds learn how to fly, and I'm happy that I can have a part in that. And I know that at some point the student is gonna surpass the master, and my students might be kicking my ass, but
Yeah.
I
You know,
can't.
that's the reward that you get for doing that work. You know, like you get to see that happen and progress. And that's what I thank my parents for. So I guess a little bit of my story. Like I grew up in like a blue collar family. My dad's like a truck driver his whole life. And I could see on his face when he'd come home, like just the pain in his eyes when he's trying to do everything that he can to make sure the family's progressing. And I mean, both him and my mom just sacrificed their whole lives for me and my sister. But I can't thank them enough for what they did, because they kept putting me in places where around people that were better than me my whole life. And then that just kind of got in my head, and I was like, I'm just going to keep doing this. Good things happen when you surround yourself with good people, and people that are better than you. You got to challenge yourself. So I have to thank them for putting me in that position where now I have my eyes focused on one thing. I have the money kind of set aside so I can focus on one thing. 100% of my focus is to that thing. So, which I think to your point, like I think so. We have a concept in EOS. It's called burn the boats. So it's called like basically you need to burn all your boats and focus on the one boat that's going to get you to where you want to go. So if your passion is Eric Swan Racing and that's what you want to do 100%, if you do that for 3 to 5 straight years, where would you be? You know what I mean? Like thinking about it that way, I know like obviously there's all these, minute things that you have to figure out, money and time, but when all your energy is moving in one direction, and then you get your whole team on that same vision and direction, I mean, you're unstoppable. So that's kind of why like EOS changed my life completely, because I was kind of like you. Like I would do research for hours. I went down every rabbit hole there ever was, like Amazon drop shipping, Amazon FBA, like I went through all those things. And at the end I was like, well, what, I finally found EOS and I was like, well, what do I like? What do I enjoy? What do I really like doing? And to your point, it's coaching, like that's what I liked. I like seeing people get that reward after, sometimes emotional type environments where things get tough, but that's where you grow. That's where you're made. And, I appreciate that you put yourself in those positions your whole life too, because, for me, like I came out a way better person, and you already acknowledged that. So, I appreciate that you have that passion to just never stop the grind.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a little bit selfish, I'd say, because I want to be the best racer possible. And when you're teaching the fundamentals, you see a whole new side of things. And you also see the struggles of other people as they come up. And these struggles are fairly consistent. Like you see them over and over and over. It's like, what do you think the biggest or one of the biggest hurdles to learning and being better is? I would say it's like thinking you already know everything, right? So if you think you already know it all, like how can you be teachable? How can you be
Yep.
coachable? It's very difficult when you're like, oh, I'm hot shit. I don't need your advice. Well, then why are you here in the first place to get coaching, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, you don't. I think it's hard. Like a lot of people, I feel like the insecurity and the fear is what drives a lot of people. And like my parents say like, Ryan, you're fearless, and I'm like, no, I'm not. Like I have plenty of fears. Like
Yeah.
I do it in a calculated way where I do all my research up front. Obviously I throw myself into things that I don't know otherwise, but um, you have to. Otherwise, and one of EOS's core values is grow or die. And like that, the prime example of that, and one of my favorite examples is, when we were kids and you saw Blockbuster and, like all those companies like that where they're like, no, we know better. No, our model's good. No, Netflix, we're good. And then look what happens. Like, just like you said, you can't ever have the idea that you know it all, because the second you do, you get your feet swept off, like right out, right under you. And there you go. Your company's in the ground. And now you just put a bunch of people out of jobs just because you had this big ego that I know everything. Like ego, you're right. Ego, the two times I think you fail is thinking you know everything and running out of money. Those two
Yeah.
100% agree.
Yep. And I like the story of Kodak. Kodak is one of the first companies that ever developed a digital camera. And then they were like, hey, wait a minute, what about our printing business? We don't want to lose our printing business. So they just, Blockbuster, Kodak, all these companies, they just totally missed the mark and got stuck in their old habits and forgot to innovate. Although, Kodak did innovate, but they said,
Yeah.
we don't want to ruin our other business or our main focus here. But yeah, if you don't change, you're gonna die. There's
Yeah.
not a whole lot of, it's either going up slightly or going down slightly. There's not a whole lot of middle plane forever. It usually doesn't happen that way.
And like for the people here, like that watch this podcast that own businesses themselves, this is a really good lesson of like, if you're getting into business for yourself, this is a really important part of business that you can't ever leave off the pulse. And if you think that, let me just open up a business and I'll just have these people doing all these things and I'll be fine. No, like you can't ever leave your finger off the pulse. And whatever that pulse looks like, it may be different for some, but so for like EOS, we have this thing called a scorecard where you have 5 to 15 different unique measurables that you're tracking on a weekly basis, so that like if you're like in what we call the owner's box, and that's all you're doing, you're not actually in the business, you can see and monitor those measurables to make sure, all right, well, say we have 10 measurables, 8 of them are on track. Okay, that's a good week. Or next week comes and you say, all right, well, we have 1 on track and 9 off track. All right, well, why did that happen? Now it starts asking questions, like why are we off track on all those? And then you start diving into deeper discussions, like this Kodak. That's such a cool example too, because they were afraid. They were afraid of losing what they already had, and again, fear. I think it just keeps tying back to fear of losing what you already have, and you can't ever stop innovating ever.
Yeah.
So
And if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. Otherwise, it's just subjective, right? You're just picking at straws, and it might not be actually true.
yep, 100%.
Um,
Yeah.
and so
So
tell me a little bit more in depth about EOS and what you guys do and what you're about.
yeah, so from like a high level, EOS just helps people get what they want from their business, very, very simply. And we really do that by working on 3 components that we call vision, traction, and healthy. So vision is basically getting everyone in your organization 100% on the same page with where you're going and how you plan to get there. Traction, which is traction is the interesting component. We'll go into a little after, but traction means like instilling discipline and accountability throughout your organization so that no matter where you go, you see people executing on the vision. And then healthy. This is also, I mean, these 3 components nail it in dead on. Healthy means creating a cohesive, functional, open and honest team, because a lot of the times they're not. So, and the key there is from the leadership team level down through the rest of the organization. So we had some stories, because I was at a conference last week for EOS. We had some stories where Oh, like they had a manufacturing line, and one of the owners had said like, oh, I don't think the line workers really care about, measurables. Like they don't speak English. They don't care. And so I can't remember where this was, but long story short, finally the implementer convinced them that like, hey, you need to get your whole team involved because that's when you're going to see strides. So finally they did. And sure enough, the guy one day comes in. He's like, one of the guys on the manufacturing line was like, I helped build like whatever stadium that was. I can't remember what it was, but I think they were making linens for that stadium. So he's like, I helped say like the Pirates win.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't even think of that. And like that's like the coolest moment because we experienced it at our last company, which is where I got introduced to EOS. And I was like, because we were actually building like high rises in New York City. We were basically fabricating the electrical assemblies in our prefab shop. And so when we finally listened to our implementer, uh, we brought it down to the team and we showed them like all these pictures of like, New York City skyline buildings, like 60, 50, 60, 70-story buildings. And they're like, we did that? Like, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, right here. Like, and like you could just see like in their eyes where they're like, wow, like I'm actually a part of something, like I'm making a difference. And that goes such a long way. And I feel like that's what this next generation of workers is going to be more looking forward to than the actual money. Now, obviously, money is, we all have to make a living. But I think that impact and why people are leaving all these big jobs is because they don't feel like they're a part of anything. They just feel like they're, in a wheel. And so they don't give it their all. They don't keep their passion in it. And it's a shame. So, but that's why I'm here. That's why I'm with this company now. Like it's my own company, but I'm an implementer for EOS. So it's so rewarding.
So it sounds like if you don't have the whole picture of what you're doing, if you're just maybe sewing a seat cushion, but you never see the full car, you're like, well, why does this matter? What's the point of this?
Yeah, it's important. It's so important to make sure that everyone is on the same page because somebody could be making a decision, and the only way that a business like can sustain itself without direct involvement, which is like why we're all in business. We want to get to that point where we can create like a repeatable system so that we can go explore. Like you want to be the best, at racing. So that's your passion. You have to find a way to get to that passion. So like, and me, like I play beach volleyball. I would love to be training way more. Like, but I don't because, I have to prioritize the things that for right now, make me what, I got to pay the bills, and so that's, everyone's got to find their passion. Once you find it, go at it.
Yeah.
So
And I just always think about like I see, Instagram or all these social media sites, they show, rich people doing whatever the hell they want. I'm like, what would it be like to not have to work and just live in your passion all day? And there's no real financial restrictions to stopping you doing that. It's like, what must that really be like?
and like, I think and part of the reason why that vision component is so important is that like a lot of people they don't know where they're going. You know what I mean? Like, especially in a company, like so I know plenty of business owners who, they have like multi-million-dollar businesses, but they know they want to grow, but they don't know by how much, or they don't know, oh, well, grow what? Grow where? Or I want to stay in this niche. So they don't know those things. And it's important because when you set like, so what we teach people is we like setting 10-year targets. These are like big ass goals, like huge goals. Like, so for yourself, if you want to get to that, say 10 years from now, you want to get to 1 million a month, you throw that number up there and you're like, you look at it and you're like, I have no idea how I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
No clue. But guess what? That starts the cycle of like, all right, well, if I need to get to 1 million a month, what do I need to do in the next 3 years, or what do I need to achieve in the next 3 years to kind of lay the foundation to get to that? And so like a lot of the companies that work with EOS implementers, they set these crazy goals and they're like, no way, like never going to get there. And consistently these people are hitting these goals at one, they had no clue how they were going to get there. And two, they dial it all the way down. Like we do a 3-year picture, a 1-year plan, and then we go into the 90-day world. So we call them like rocks. So basically everyone, the company has 90-day rocks, and then individuals have 90-day rocks. Now, each person, you have 3 to 7 priorities. That's it. You don't need to do a million different things, because when everything is important, nothing's important.
Yeah.
So focus on 3 to 7 things and do them. And if you predict well, then you're going to make those strides every 90 days, every 90 days. And sure enough, wow, I just hit my 1-year plan. I didn't even think I was going to get there. I'm like, oh, cool. And I've witnessed it myself. And when you accomplish something like that, where you set a goal and you hit it, and it was like a goal that you're like, no, I don't think so. You're like, holy shit, what? This is so powerful. And then the whole team gets amped up, and now you start bringing in people that are like-minded to you, and it snowballs, absolutely snowballs. So those big goals, it starts with a vision.
And then it sounds like once you start hitting those smaller goals, it gives you more confidence that you can actually hit those larger goals over time.
100%. And like it starts, so the 90 days, are so important, and you have to track it, because like a lot of people, like there's 2 different types of people. I feel like it's like one who they set visions and then they don't do anything about it, or they don't actually have a way to implement it or gain traction on it. Or the other people who just kind of go, and then don't have a vision, or don't have like a light that they're going towards, which again, like we're all humans. So like nobody's perfect. And business is hard as hell. Like it's not easy at all. But the guys from EOS have been at this for well over 10 years. The story of the founders, so I'll share that real quick, who I met last week, unbelievable person. He was like 21 when he was an entrepreneur since the age of 21. And then at 25, he got called into his family business, needed a turnaround. So he spent like 3 years turning the company around, ran it for 7, finally sold it, and then spent a year and a half transitioning in the new leadership team, and then retired. And then, so during that time, this is like, a long time ago, 20 years ago, during that time, he was working in like, it's an organization called EO, Entrepreneurs organization, I think, in Detroit. And he started, working with some of the other members who all own businesses. And they were like, you're like really good at this. And he's like, I love this. Like, so he decided to start dedicating his whole life to it. And that's when he began creating EOS. Now, I think we have over 580 implementers that have done, I think, 170,000 sessions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's growing really fast. And we have some aggressive goals ourselves, because again, this is like, business is so hard, and this is like having an expert in structuring a business. And then like we say all the time, a lot of people ask me like, you're like in the electrical industry, what do you know about like racing? Like, I don't know anything about racing, like nothing. But that's the point, is that I am a third party that's implementing this business structure that works in any industry. But the owners and leaders have to be growth oriented, open-minded, kind of like you said. If you don't have those things, it's a recipe for disaster. And so that's what we look for too when working with people, because it's important. If you're closed-minded and you don't want to grow and you're satisfied, that's fine. But this isn't like, it's not the right fit. So yeah, I can go on and on here. So
no, that's fine.
Just tell me to shut up.
No, it's all about diving deep and just going into those things that you care about. And it's just cool to get people's stories and pick their brain a little bit.
Yeah. So what I guess, what other goals do you have for the business? I know you mentioned those numbers. I know you also want to, pursue your passion full time. Do you have a plan for how you're going to get there?
So I don't have it written down right now, but I used to have vision boards for my personal life, for my racing life, for the business sales side of things. I used to have them plastered up against my in my room to look at them every day. And I don't do that right now. I got kind of frustrated and I had to take a step back from what I was doing, but I haven't not given up. I'm just trying to find other ways to keep it funded and keep it going at the moment. Um, and you know, just trying to find different ways to keep it going really is you know, like I said, I'm in transition right now. So um but I think a lot of people are in the same position that I am. Like you were doing really well and then it kind of takes a step back. That's not uncommon. I think it's probably more common than just seeing this skyrocketing trajectory.
Yeah, I think another thing too is like if you make that transition, which I think you're right. I think a lot of people are making that transition, especially like our generation. Like we're kind of sick of, I after experiencing EOS, I can't ever work for somebody that doesn't value these things, in terms of like being open minded. And like it blew my mind. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of people are making that transition from full time to running my own business. And that, yeah, it's scary. Yeah, you make less money up front. But again, it's that long-term mindset. If you keep at this for 3 to 5 years and you do it the right way, which again, it takes time to find out what the right way even is. Because you're an expert at racing and that's what you know all the brands, all the people, all those things. So focus on that, like don't focus on like, well, I have to input this invoice. You said it yourself, the things that I don't like to do, then don't do those things. Like
Yeah.
there's people like we were talking about before with the outsourcing. They like to do, like, those companies enjoy that because one, they're valued. That you're right, they get paid way better, in terms of the dollar being strong. So like they want to do it, and that's so important. There's people that want to do certain work. They're just good at it. I'm not good at like details. I know I'm not. I'm horrible.
Yeah.
But that's stuff that I shouldn't be doing. You play
Right.
to your strengths. I always thought too, and I talked to a lot of people about this, especially at this conference. I was like, well, should I be focused on my strengths or should I be focused on making my weaknesses better? And it was a really good conversation. But at the end of the day, they were like, if you focus on your weaknesses, that's great and it'll round you out, but it's not where your energy is expended the most. So, meaning, or I guess you're not going to get the biggest return out of focusing on your weaknesses. So, like, I'm not good at building things with my hand. I know I'm not. And so we all took a Colby test. Have you ever taken one of those personality tests?
I think so. Yeah. In college.
Yeah, I did too, and I never really did anything with it. And then, like, all the EOS implementers, we take a Colby test, and it's not just taking a test. It's like it's ingraining into your head like why you do the things you do. So I'm not an expert on it whatsoever, but I know that I have like it's at 1 to 10 in 4 categories. So I have like an 8-5-5-2, 8 being I'm a high fact finder. So I'm really big on data and numbers, and I go almost too far when it comes to that. And then the second one is follow through. I'm a 5. Follow through being like, all right, well, if I say something, how often am I doing it? And those numbers are a measurement of like the energy it takes for you to do those things. So for me to be a fact finder, that's where that's where my biggest passion is, because I like diving into those details. But when it gets to be, it's called being an implementer at the end, where you're actually physically doing it or physically implementing it into a business, I'm a 2. And it's just not what I enjoy. And it gave me like such clarity where it was like, wow, all right, well, if I just strongly focus on, the fact finder side of me, and then the third one is quick start. So how quickly you are ready to start something, like that stuff is so important to know how best to use your energy because we only have so much a day.
Yeah. And I'm
So
sure that your ratings could probably change over time or even with different moods that you're in. So it's not static, it's probably a pretty dynamic ranges there.
So I asked that question too, and they were like, "You are who you are," and I was like, "Interesting."
Hmm.
I'm gonna do it again in a year. I want to check on that because I want to know. I thought the same thing. I was like, yeah, it has to change, like based on all your experiences. Because when I was a kid, I mean, I had a way different mindset than I do now. But they were like, no, it's. And if anybody out there knows Colby, like, let
Yeah.
me know because I want to learn more about it. But yeah, I thought experiences would change too, but we'll see.
And I've always been someone who said, start before you're ready. Like, I don't know how to get to 1 million a month, but I'm trying. Like, I'm nowhere
Yeah.
close to that. But like, what can you do today? What 5 actions could you take, or 3, or however many you choose? Like, do you need to make a phone call? Do you need to go to the library or look something up online? Like, do you need to watch a YouTube video? Like, what's going to get you one more step closer to that goal? Do you need to go on LegalZoom and start an LLC? Like, what steps can you take today that's not going to overwhelm you? And then, like, what can you do tomorrow? Like, just small incremental steps. Like, I was never ready to go racing. I don't know if anybody's really ready to like throw those leathers on and go 150 miles an hour with people, right next to you. And like, that's scary. But
Yeah.
you don't start there. You start at like, let's buy a motorcycle and like ride on the street for 4 years. And then let's do some open track days with just practice laps with, it's not a race, it's just open track. And then, let's get some coaching. And then let's, I'll find out I'm already passing racers and I'm not even a racer yet in track days. So, and then you go into racing, you're like, you get your ass kicked. So it's like, oh, am I ready? Should I go back to track days? I don't know.
Yeah.
And then you just slowly progress. And then by the end of the season, you might win a race or two. I'm like, oh, maybe I could step up to expert. And then, go through that whole process again in the expert classes. And so it's just this steady progression of like, what can I do today? I don't know all the things. I don't have any friends in this sport. When I first started, I'm just gonna figure it out as I go.
Yeah. That's kind of how I got I got into beach volleyball. So when I went to college, I was recruited to swim there, and I was like, I don't know, like week one, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
This is not speaking my language. At being up at 5 in the morning and getting in a pool, I'm good.
Yeah.
So
It's
then,
a
like
lot
I
of
started,
commitment.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a lot of commitment for something that I didn't enjoy. Like I didn't know I didn't enjoy it until I got to college, and I was like, yeah, I could be doing like 100 other things right now that
Yeah.
I really don't want to do it. So that's when I found beach volleyball, and I just started like I had never played volleyball in my entire life, so I started like playing around, and then sure enough, this is like I'm playing like every day at school, and like I just want to, do. I want to keep playing, keep playing, keep playing. I didn't even know it at the time, but whatever it is just spoke to me, and that was my passion, and so I ran with it. And so now I play tournaments like pretty much every weekend in the summer, and it's a huge part of my life. I have a lot of friends that I see every weekend, and I couldn't even picture my life without it. So you know when one door closes, like another one like that opens, and now it's like I've been playing volleyball for 11 years now. Like,
Yeah.
crazy to say that, but I don't stop. Everything I do, like I want to be better. I want to, just getting to that point where, like you said, like I want to do that more often. That's my passion. That's what I want to be doing. So I have and EOS too. So both of them, like they're both my passion. So now my whole life is passion, where I have my career, my hobby, and my wife, all three. My
That's
passion.
great.
Like, yeah, I'm blessed. I'm seriously blessed. It took me a lot to find all this, but I did a lot of deep diving over the years, and it's hard. Life's not easy. So, but ask for help. Everyone should be asking for help if you need help, if you're struggling. I'm all ears all the time.
And I think there's so many people who are working jobs that they don't love. And there's something to be said about that too, whether it's a good paying job or the hours work for them or their schedule. But they're not quite satisfied. And I heard this as a quote before, something like, there is no one job that will satisfy about 8 million or 8 billion of the humans on Earth. Like there is no one job. I don't think a job is the end all be all of satisfaction. You gotta
Yeah.
find things that you enjoy outside of the job, even if you like your job. It's not everything, right?
Yeah, it's 100% and like balance. I'm huge on balance. Like and I mean racing too. Every sport, balance is key in literally life on all sides of the spectrum. And that's something that, you can't go 100% on everything. You can't. It's not mentally and physically possible. You'll burn out. And I know countless people have burned out over the years, and myself included. You can't. You think you can push yourself, but at some point something's gonna break. I had like a pretty bad like neck and upper back problem
Hmm.
because I was lifting heavy, and then I wasn't doing it the right way. I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't working on mobility. And then so one of my buddies who I met, Charlie, he's a chiropractor who actually just I went to a chiropractor one day and he was there, and now he's like one of my best friends. And he fixed me up and taught me like, hey man, you should probably do some mobility exercises. It's like I don't know, I just kept going.
Yeah. Yeah, I found relief with chiropractors in the past. Some people, shit on them a little bit because they're not real doctors, but I found significant benefits. I originally went for migraines years ago,
Yep, that's
and
what I
uh,
had.
and it helped out. But I also found it was a lot of my diet. But there's some times where like I might have a crash or I slept wrong or like fell down weird.
Yep,
And there's like my neck is like stuck this way. Like there's no
yep,
way to get it out other than chiropractic
yep.
adjustment.
Yeah, I mean, like, they were kind of unique too, but it wasn't just like Cairo. He had like a little exercise area up front too, which helped. I mean, that helped a lot because I started working on like my posture and because I wasn't even aware of any of these things until something broke down, and I was like, oh, time to, time to react to this before it breaks me down. I have really no choice now. So, but yeah, definitely a good learning moment. So.
Yeah, and I've heard some of my friends were talking about they had to take their dog to the chiropractor recently. And like that's the thing now, dog chiropractors.
Interesting. I did not know that.
So
How,
that's pretty bougie, right?
how do you how do you know your dog needs to go to the chiropractor?
I don't know. Maybe if they're in pain some way or can't lift their paw a certain way, don't have the same movement that they did before. Um, yeah, I don't know how that gets diagnosed, but it's a
Interesting.
thing now.
Hey, maybe my dog can talk to me and hey man, I need to go to the chiropractor.
Well, you ever seen those dogs that have buttons laid all over the floor? They can press a button and tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's like next level.
We want to get that for our dog because he's a German Shepherd Collie mix. So we want to at some point when we have time, we got to figure that out. But I want to try with him and see if he can, I don't know, tell me a sentence.
That'd be pretty cool. It's like outside now, hungry,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, we have a bell for him on our back door, and so he'll go up and like nail it with his nose, and like, so now every time like, and he's high energy.
Yeah.
So if we don't like run him around, he'll just ding it like every 20 minutes. I'm like, oh, so we just go burn energy. We go run him around the street, and he's a lot, but he's awesome.
So going back to those vision boards a little bit, some people say, "Oh, that's too woo-woo for me. That's too like out there." And I would say, yeah, like the secret, that whole series was very um inspirational. But if you don't do anything with any of these like concepts, if you just think about it, maybe that could help create a mind map of things in your mind. Like you have to create it in your mind before you do anything with it. But if you never do anything with it, you just think about stuff, nothing's ever going to happen.
Yep. So and so like I'm a big fan of um the when it's needed. So I used to be that person who would like the rabbit hole thing I was talking about before. I would go down every rabbit hole and just like, oh, YouTube video this, podcast this. I'd listen to everything. And then at some point, I can't remember who, maybe it was, do you follow a guy named Alex Hermosi on Instagram or any of that?
Sounds familiar.
I'll send him to you after this,
Yeah.
but oh my goodness. He basically was like, what are you doing? Like, why read like 10, 15, 20 books a year when you can read three and apply them? I was like, huh. Because like at some point, we have like at least at this stage in our lives, we have like any amount of information right at our fingertips at any given moment. So like you're right, the more important thing now is taking the action and having the ability to do these things, because the knowledge, you're going to get it. You know, it's all out there. You can find anything that you want to find. But the thing that holds people back is not taking the action because they're afraid of, well, what if I fail, or what if I do something wrong? We all fail. We all suck. We're all great. Like,
Yeah.
you know, but you like, it's just like my uncle says all the time. He's like, especially for golf, like he's like, everyone sucks at golf. When I first started, I was like, all right, cool. Like that makes me feel a little bit better. And like we all do suck at golf. It's hard as hell. like so just go out there, have fun, and it'll be fine. You know, and you're naturally going to want to get better. So you know, you ask a few tips from a few people, and sure enough, there you go. But I think the weight is on the action side, like you said.
Yeah, and ideas, reading 100 books is great, but ideas are free. Implementation is a bitch. Like that's the hard part. It's like you can have all these ideas and have a binder full of stuff, but if you never do anything with it, it's never going to go anywhere.
100%. And that's what, because I was so caught up in like why, because I'm that person who has like 100 different ideas, and like I need to be reined in a little bit because I get carried away. And what EOS does is EOS kind of identifies like a typical structure for a business. So they have, every organization has a sales and marketing function. Every organization has an operations function. And every organization has a finance function. Every organization in the history of organizations has that basic structure. Now, what they say is that every great organization has two additional major functions, which is an integrator and a visionary, which I had never heard of that. And I was like, what is it? What are these terms? But it makes sense. So like a visionary is like that person, they're the big idea person. They love staying at like 30,000 feet. They come to every meeting with like 30, 20 different ideas or whatever. They're the creative problem solver. They hate being in the trenches. They hate details. Um, they manage big relationships, and they don't like tough conversations. That's work that's best done by the integrator, because like they have a complement to each other, the visionary integrator combo. So the integrator, they're the person who like beats the drums of the organization. They're like the glue that holds it all together. And they're really the person who integrates the way the leadership team works together, which would be the sales, the operations, and the finance, how they all work together. They're the one that's facilitating that and pushing accountability, where the visionary is worried about the things we were talking about before. All right, well, what's the market doing? Like Kodak and Blockbuster, like that's what their job is to be doing for an organization. And there's certain people that are just natural visionaries, and then there's certain people that are natural integrators. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just what your strengths are.
Yeah.
It's important. Follow your strengths.
And I think that some of the problem with a lot of organizations is they're just missing some of those key roles. They don't have those as established positions, and
Yep.
or they have a visionary in the integrator role. They're miscategorized, they're mislabeled, and doing the wrong job in the first place.
So and there's actually a piece that we say about that. When a visionary is stuck in an integrator seat, you see a lot of spikes in organizations because they're high energy. They say, hey, go run that way. Oh, wait, run that way, run that way. And then your organization's in a tornado, and now, you got pulled in 70 different directions that you're like, but we didn't get anything done. That's what visionaries can do to organizations. Like I can do that. Like, but I need that combo where I can throw 10 ideas at a wall, and the integrator would be like, dude, 8 of those suck, but these 2 are rock solid. Let's run with them. And that combination is lethal. If we call it rocket fuel, because that's really what it does. When those two can get along like a dynamic duo, you can't be stopped.
Yeah. And so if somebody wants to take your implementations or your ideas from EOS as an EOS implementer, how do they go about rendering your services?
Yeah, let me so I want to show you. This is a book that they have. It's called Traction by Gina Wickman.
Okay,
So I guess I don't know how you want to do this, but I'm gonna give out like, you know, 5 books to, I guess, maybe the first few people that reach out to you.
sure.
10. Yeah, 10. I can do 10.
All right.
Um, so for the first people that reach out to you, completely free. But I start by, people should read this book. It literally changed my life. And they have a whole series of books, and genuinely, in terms of, I guess, reaching out to me, I can provide you my contact information. But yeah, I guess that would be a good place to start. And then the people that reach out that want a copy of the book, um, happy to send them out.
All right. Is there a social media platform for the implementer?
Yeah, so I mean, like, so EOS Worldwide is really like our national brand. So I'm like a franchise owner of EOS Worldwide. So I'm one of the 580 implementers across the globe. Um, so we have implementers all across the country. So it depends on what everybody's looking for, but the end goal really is to just open everyone's eyes that like business should be fun. This should be like, it shouldn't be stressful. It should be fun. And I know that's a ridiculous thing to say. And people said it to me. And I was like, okay, like, what do you mean? But it can be. And like the fact that it can be, and I'm telling you it can be, I've been there. So have the faith. You can do anything with your life. So just reach out if you want to learn more. I'm happy to help anybody that needs help. I'm here. So
And how long you been doing it with EOS so far?
yeah, it's been like 3 months, but I worked with them for like 2 years at the last company I worked for. So we went from, it was like basically a startup. We started at like 3 million, and when we were done, we got to revenues of 10 million
Oh, wow.
in only a year and a half. So I mean, I've experienced it. We had like, I think we started with like 10 or 15 people, and we got up to like 50. It got hairy quick.
Yeah.
So having that foundation was so crucial to getting to where we got. And without that, we would have collapsed. We would have collapsed like 6 months before that point. So
And is there a typical type of business that is best suited for this, whether it's sales or marketing or like service-based industries?
So I think we've literally been in any industry that you could possibly think of. I mean, I'm talking like real estate, medical, sports facilities, marketing agencies, law firms, um, contractors, plumbers, electrical, HVAC. I mean, it's any industry. That's the beauty of Traction. It's the beauty of the book. It works in any industry, and the best part is that it's almost better that I don't know about your industry, so that I don't insert my little insert my little advice in there, because my job is to make sure that I implement or help you implement these tools into your business. And there's countless of them. If you read the book Traction, or you want to learn more, I'm always here to help. So
Okay, yeah. And you mentioned you have some experience with real estate. You want to talk about that a little bit?
yeah, so that kind of just started because I was like, I just wanted, I knew real estate was so powerful, from just long-term investing. And I'm a long-term that kind of person. So the first one I started was, what year is it? 3 years. I bought it 3 years ago. And that was, a townhome just to get started. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. No clue. But I was like, oh, whatever. I knew I wanted to own properties. So I started renting that out, and, learning how to manage a property. Do you happen to own any properties or?
So I got a unique situation. I have I have not ever owned any property, so I'm not building any assets or or money in the market. However, I have had roommates for the past 12 years. So my set of roommates just moved out. Thankfully, there was just a bad fit personality wise because I'm living in the unit that I'm renting. So it has to be a good fit overall. But I'm just basically subleasing my rental that I'm renting. And
Nice.
man, I would highly recommend it. I think they call it what's the word?
Is that
Uh,
like the short term? You're short term renting it?
Yeah, so like I have a long lease and it's gonna be up in a couple months, but I would just sublease it. It's a 3 bedroom and I choose to live in the basement and rent out the top 2 rooms because those are the most valuable. And
Nice.
yeah, 750 a month for each room, all utilities included for them. So I'm basically living for free for the last few years, and like that's like $18,000 a year just right off the top. So if you have it fully rented for the whole time, so it's kind of like a hybrid. Um, and it would be even better if I was, building equity and owning the property, because then you wouldn't be throwing away, $900 times 8 years in money that I could have had. But my problem has always been like coming up with the down payment. Um,
Yeah.
and you know, there are credits that you can use. I have really good credit, so even doing like a conventional loan with like 3% down is another way to finance that. And yeah, there's a lot of ways to do it, but I would love to have multiple rentals and be able to keep doing this. It's just the risk is if you get a place with 3, 4, or 5 bedrooms and you don't get it rented, now you're on the hook for all that rent instead of someone else helping you out with the payment.
Yeah, and I mean, I think so. For me, like, I was always gonna have my career and whatever I was gonna do in real estate, and I just knew I needed to start, so I did. And then you start learning, like, all right, well, that worked out and that didn't work out. But my favorite thing about real estate is that, like, for example, I spent a good amount of money on like real estate wholesaling courses, and guess what? I didn't do anything with it. I just dumped that money into the garbage. Like,
Yeah.
like there's so many things like that where you're like, all right, well, my investment then went to zero because I did nothing with it because I'm just that's I don't know. I didn't find anything out of that I enjoyed.
Or that you
So
could feel like
instead,
you could implement.
yeah, and that like it comes down to what lights the fire inside of you, and EOS for sure, real estate for sure. But I guess the key is like I'm trying to think where I was going with that. Um,
Just real estate and finding what fits with you.
yeah, I mean, like just get started. If you know you're gonna do something for a long period of time, like real estate for me, I was like, I'm just gonna get started now. So it doesn't even matter like when you get in the market. And I know I like again, that was another thing. Like I heard Warren Buffett say that once, where he's like, it's not about when you get in. I'm like, ah.
Kind of
And then
matters.
yeah, like I mean it does, but like for him, he's like, I don't give a shit. Like, who cares? Like, but when we're young and we don't have as much money, we're like, well, it would be nice if I got in at the like, when it's the cheapest. But now looking back, and we have 4 properties now, 3 of which are rentals. Um, like if I didn't get started, the cost of not getting started is higher than any cost that I lost or any money that I lost along the way by
Yeah.
far.
I think it's just
Because
better that you get started rather than when you get started. You win is as soon as possible.
and like real estate is never going away in the United States. I've heard other things in like different countries where it's not as like tax friendly, but I mean, I think there's a crazy stat out there like 80% of millionaires come from real estate. So I'm like I'm not
Wow.
surprised. It's something crazy. You could definitely fact check me on that. But it's a ridiculously high number where like real estate just it's an actual asset. It's something like everyone about this whole crypto thing. Like, I mean, yeah, I'm in. Like, I have money in crypto, but now it's sitting there, and I'm like, if this would have been real, if I would have put that into real estate, I'd actually have an asset that didn't drop like, I don't know, 75%, if not, sorry, it's way more than that now. I mean, you lost more than half its value.
Yeah, and
Like
some of these
it's
companies are
crazy.
completely going under, like FTX, I've heard. But I mean, people will always need a place to live, right? I mean,
Yep.
it might go up and down. There's market fluctuations, but generally, like the housing values go steadily up from where you purchased them, unless the neighborhood goes to shit or the house catches on fire, and then there's insurance, right? So
Yep.
there's safeguards, but I guess people are really scared about like terrible tenants and like holes in the wall and like people wrecking your stuff and like drawing with marker all over the place. So like there are risks, but I mean, like I said, I've never owned a property myself, but I've had probably, I don't know, 14 or 15 different roommates. And some of them were a pain in the ass and I couldn't wait for their lease to be over. And like, here's your 30 days notice, 3 months in advance, because I can't stand your ass. But
Yeah.
I think it's been worth it. It's even with all
100%.
this, even with all the stress that I've had, and I just got rid of two super pain in the ass tenants that thought I was out to get them. I'm like, no, I just don't want your dishes on the counter. I got to do my dishes. Where am I supposed to put my stuff if you got your stuff in the sink? You know,
Yeah.
just simple things that we went over as soon as they moved in. They just didn't want
Yep.
to follow. I'm like, well, this is not working. So
It's and like it's not, and I'm glad you said that. It's not for everybody. I
no,
mean,
yeah, it's definitely not.
I did it myself too with my place in Baltimore, and like, it's hard. Like, especially finding people that you get along with. But if you go into it with the mindset that you're like, all right, well, I'm gonna make the best of this, and that's all you can do. What else are you gonna do? So I think I really applaud you for doing that, because it takes, you have that vision that you want. It's one, saving the money, to then do what you need to do to fund your passions, fund your business. you know I think that's awesome. I respect that a
Yeah, thank
lot.
you. And one of I got a list of ideas, but one of my ideas that I think is pretty viable is now you'd have to find somebody who's willing, a landlord who's willing to do this. But say you don't have a down payment, and like I said, I've been living in my rental and renting out at two other rooms of it. What if you found more properties who the landlord is willing to let you sublease it? And now you don't have to pay for the down payment. I would always collect a security deposit for those tenants. I always run a background check, credit check for those tenants, um, and have all their information on hand. Do it the legal way. But if you found other properties and got those properties filled, or even say, look, I don't want to rent it until I get a renter. So then you're reducing the amount of time that it could be vacant. Um, and you could furnish it with simple things like a couch and a TV that you could probably get most of those things from a thrift shop for not
Yeah.
too much money. And I've never furnished the bedrooms, but they bring their own things. So, that's another way that you could have multiple properties for a very small amount of money and low risk, um, without having to come up with 20, 30, $40,000 down payments for some of these properties.
And that it just takes like wanting more to do things like that. I mean, like you're thinking outside the box. It's step one. Like that's awesome, because I know there I've seen things out there that are kind of similar to that, where they go find a landlord who's renting their property, and somebody calls them up and is like, hey, I've actually identified your property as like a good short-term rental, or maybe like a vacation rental. And so what they do is they do exactly what you said. They come in, furnish it for a few $1,000s, and then they pay the whatever the landlord wanted a month, and then they keep the difference. So they go list it on Airbnb, they go handle all that, but they don't have, I don't know if there's like a term for it, but
They don't
they
have
don't
the
have,
overhead.
yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot to manage and a lot to do, that you have to, figure out your processes. But great way. And like when people ask me like, how do I get started in real estate? I mean, like that's a great idea. Hell yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
don't have any money. I don't know how to do it. I don't know. Like that's a good idea. When you're first getting started, trading your time for money is like the best way. So like that, you're spending your time to make yourself money. That's the only way to then get money. So, and you only have so much time. So how can I spend my time in the best way so that I get the most money out of it so then I can go put my money to work.
Right. Yeah.
So like I applaud that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I like the saying of Warren Buffett. He says, if you never figure out how to make money while you sleep, you'll work until you die.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good one. It's a good one.
That's scary, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like to the other side of that is if you are going to work until you die, I hope you're doing something you love. Like I hope it's like a passion because if you're working and like again, I watched my dad. He's still working. You know, he's still a truck driver. He's working 70-hour weeks. You know, like he did everything that he knew how to do. Like my dad's family came from Spain, so my dad's dad took a huge risk. At the time, coming from Spain to the United States because he wanted what's best for his family. And my dad did the same for me. And so I fully intend on doing the same for my kids. But those big moments like that where you're like, my dad saw it as a risk, but like between when Spain, I guess it was Franco, but like when Spain was back then, like the US was like the land of hope and the land of prom, like there's jobs and so they busted their asses like crazy. And now, my dad and my mom, their big thing was, like don't do what we did, like do better. And so
Yeah.
that like going back to your point too with coaching, like that's like the biggest reward. I was on the phone with my dad before this, just telling him about some stuff, but like, it's just so cool. Hug your parents, tell them you love them. Like they've done so much. I try to do it more often now because it's, you never know. You
Yeah,
never
for
know what
sure.
tomorrow brings.
And yeah, my grandpa, he worked at a place called Diamond Heat Treat. It's like blast furnaces at several thousand degrees, treating different pieces of metal and and whatnot for heat treating. And my dad worked there for like a summer, and he said if you could picture what hell is like, that is 100% what it is. It's just hotter than shit and like not fun at all, and just like kind of factory type work. And he's like, you need to use your brain and work smarter and not harder. And like, I don't want you to be doing these kind of jobs. Like, he's like, I can't imagine he worked there for like 25 years. Like, I can't imagine what kind of life that's like. And so, yeah, it's just all about hopefully the next generation gets better and better. And you're learning from other generation mistakes. I wouldn't say mistakes, just like the progression of things, I guess. And like now, you know, I guess doubling down on your strengths. I'm a really great racer. I'm a really good professional level motorsports guy. And so like my forte is not sales. My forte is going around a track really fast. And the next job I got, I've talked about a couple of times in the podcast, but haven't done it yet. But I'm going there in less than a week for a 1 week test before I move my life 2,000 miles across the country. Is driving supercars. It's like a supercar driving experience, and I'm going to be a coach for them.
Oh, nice.
So they offer me the position. I just now got to figure out the logistics of moving to Vegas from Michigan. So it's a 2,000-mile journey, but I think it's going to happen. And yeah, right after Thanksgiving, the 28th through the 5th of December, I'll be there doing my training and testing, but testing it out, see if I want to make the full move. But I'm sure I'll love it because it's like Ferrari, Lamborghini, Porsche, like Ford Performance, all these super high end race cars, and
Damn.
they have like 4 disciplines there. They do a drift experience, they do a karting, they do an off road like with trophy trucks and ATVs, and then they do the supercar driving experience. And I'll be at least so far the supercar coach. So
So do they just travel around like the country kind of doing those? So what exactly is that? Or is you're
so
coaching in Vegas?
So this one for the supercars is one track. I'm pretty sure it's just one facility. They have a purpose-built racetrack on their premises. It's not like a public race course that you can just rent. It's their own track, in South Las Vegas, and they're open like almost every day of the year. So I'll be doing this motorcycle coaching in probably 10 states or so. And then the secondary thing will be the supercar driving experience. So
Wow.
it's kind of selfish for me because yes, I like coaching, but my thing is I want to be at the racetrack as much as possible making money. You know, when you're racing, it's all pay to play. So it's all spending money every time you're going to the track. But this is an opportunity that I can be at the racetrack honing my skills and coaching skills while also being in an environment I love to be in. So I'll be pretty much the guy in the passenger seat, telling you when to turn, when to brake, when to get back on the gas,
Wow.
and please don't spin the car, you know?
Drive straight, please.
Yeah. And so it's these are super fast 1,000 horsepower machines, and at some for some of them. So it's like they're very twitchy. They can be easy to lose them. I think it's easiest to lose it on the brakes when you're coming into a section. You need to brake in as straight line as possible without having steering input. The moment you start having steering input and full brakes is when the car starts to spin.
That's
So
awesome. Wow.
So that's coming up for me. Hopefully the last day in Michigan will be like January 12th. So it's come less than 2 months.
Wow. I was actually just so last week I was actually just in Detroit, so I don't know how far that is from you because that's where our conference was. So,
Yeah, I'm in Sterling Heights, so just about half hour north of Detroit, not too far.
oh damn, that's funny.
Yeah.
Did you guys get hit with that snow? Because it was snowing on the flight back.
Yeah, we got a little bit. We got a dusting, but it's melting right now, so there's just a little bit of snow here. It's not like
Yeah.
probably an inch or two.
Yeah. Huh. Cool.
So
Well, one more comment. Don't be worried about being selfish. I mean, it's your life, man. Like, go live it. Like, you should go do the things that make you happy.
yeah.
And if and when you get to the point where you have time to give back, then go for it. Like that. I think that's the best part for me is that I get to give back. There's been so many people that have helped me along the way, and then like now finally I'm able to give back in a way that I know how and I know I can do. So I mean that's the next stage of my life is helping business owners and people get what they want from their business. So
Yeah,
I'm excited.
I just say selfish because there's multiple reasons, right? It's not just because I love coaching. It's also
Yeah,
because I love being in that environment,
yeah.
and it's dual reasons, I guess. It's not necessarily selfish, it's just multiple reasons.
No, that's good though. That's sounds like an awesome experience. So
Hell yeah. Is there anything else on your mind you wanted to talk about today?
no, I think I mean unless you have any questions or anything like that, I'm good.
So I know you have a wife now, but saying beach volleyball is probably a great way to meet some pretty girls.
Yeah. Yeah, go to California. I can't say she's no. But yeah, it's a great sport. So I mean, I genuinely there's just so many good people in it too. So I met people all over, even the world. I've been over, in Spain. Where else did I play? Barcelona. Like it's a good sport, good community of people, and that's really what I'm all about. It's just getting a good group of people together and doing what you all love.
Heck yeah, it's a little frustrating sometimes being a pro level athlete and not being able to financially compete in my sport. So
Yeah.
having a sport like volleyball, it's like, what do you need? A bathing suit and a volleyball and maybe a net, some poles,
Yep.
maybe,
Yep.
maybe some chalk.
Super. It's like the same. So I'm a surfer too, and like between those two sports, like neither of the people that play those sports, like you don't need money. So like like all the businesses surrounded around surfing and like beach volleyball, like these people don't like paying money for anything.
Yeah,
They don't have any money, so it's like it's hard. So the businesses surrounded around that are like,
this is
you gotta
great,
be,
right?
yeah. They're like, damn.
And yeah, also I get it. So some of the people, if they sponsor the series, it's like they're not going to make a ton of money because people aren't spending the money in the first place.
Exactly. So like it's a whole different like for you, I'm sure there's like tons of companies that are sponsoring like for beach volleyball. I mean, it's it's not that, it used to be big, but now it's kind of like dwindling down. So
And I've
we'll see.
heard some people say like, "Oh, this guy's the best racer in the world," and other people chime in and say, "Well, no, there's probably somebody better. He just can't afford to do it." Like, well, you can't make that distinction. I mean, he's the best one currently doing it, right?
Yeah. Either he's the best or he's the best. Dude, don't worry about
Yeah.
money.
But like, I would say that there's probably a lot of people in racing who are really good who are not doing it for financial reasons, but like soccer
Oh,
or basketball or volleyball or surfing, like there's so many people who are able to do it. There's maybe a high, I don't know about a higher level, but the level is probably pretty high.
so is it just that like, so like the beach volleyball tournaments, like the pro level ones pay out? Well, they're not, it's not great, but I mean, do the racing events pay out well or?
No, no, unfortunately not. Like there are
Interesting.
a couple races, like Daytona, the Daytona 200 for motorcycle racing. It has one of the biggest purses. They pay out $175,000 to 40 places. So the top 40. So like if you win, you might get 25 grand, and then it's lower down from there. There is one race in New Hampshire that's supposed to be like the biggest race purse in the country, and I think that's like $400,000, which is fantastic. But it's
Yeah.
you have to be in the top 10 to really make some serious money, and then you have such a huge level of competition. People who are going to be showing up for that race, it's going to be legitimate pros showing up to like an amateur event. So it's like, well, are you going to really finish in the top 20? Maybe. um and
How
it's
many
get
how many races do you do a year?
So when I was racing at the full clip, it was maybe 40 or 50 races, but I would do every single class that I could. So you can race higher classes, you can't race in a lower class with a faster bike. So you're
Got
at
it.
a disadvantage if you're racing up in classes higher than your bike is capable of. But I would do, they call it 600 class, so 600cc. And within those classes, there's a super stock and a super bike. So one's modified, one's more stock. And then there's the same thing for 750s and same thing for 1000s. So I would race all six classes on a stock 600, get my ass kicked sometimes, but you're getting more competition. They have like 60 horsepower more than you, but you can still compete with them at certain racetracks based on how long the straightaway is and their skill level. And then sometimes you have double headers. So it'll be 6 on Saturday, 6 on Sunday. So that's
Oof.
just 12 races within 2 days. It's a lot. And each race might be 8 laps or so, mile and a half, 2 miles per track, maybe a minute and a half or so per lap. But it's grueling. It's extremely physically demanding, where you're riding a 400-pound machine, muscling it around at the limits of physics while you're wearing a full race suit and it's 100 degrees out and the bike is a couple hundred degrees. Like you're sweating before you even throw your leg over it.
Jeez.
But it's a tough thing, and if it was easy, I don't think people would stay in it as long, because there's always more to learn, there's always more to gain, there's always somebody faster than you. And it's just I found my thing. I'm just trying to figure out how
Yeah.
to afford it and keep doing it.
Yeah, that's the hard part. Now we'll gotta figure it out. Well,
For sure,
takes
man.
time.
So thank you for coming on, talking to me for about an hour and 20 today. And
Yeah.
I'll be sure to get this edited and posted. I got a few in the queue I still have to get to. But yeah, send me that information on the book and I'll
Yep.
put it out there in the post. That first couple of people who reach out to me for that will get a free book on the subject of business and trying to make it work in that landscape.
Perfect. Awesome. Well,
So
thanks for having me, Eric.
thanks so much. Have a good one.
You too.